welcome to Ask Deb About Business. I am Rom Gayoso, co host. We're broadcasting via Futures Television, the home of the future on television. If you're watching this show on Futures Television, listening to it on Radio Futures, or listening to it as a podcast or as a recorded event on one of the social media platforms, you too can be part of the conversation. Just visit our YouTube channel, and that is IMCI Magazine, where we continue to chat about the topic of the day. You can also access this information on our website, and that is www.futurestelevision.com. So don't be shy. Today, our topic is building a world class organization. Everybody wants to own, lead, work for, or with a world class organization. Face it. As the CEO, your board of directors, employees, investors, your clients, and customers certainly expect to engage with a company that is clearly the leader in its field. As the owner, CEO, president, COO, or general manager of the business, it is your responsibility to guide the organization to world class status. But how do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to understand how to define a world class organization. Then you must be committed to enterprise wide, sustainable, profitable, and scalable organic growth. Then you must commit to identifying, attracting, and retaining the best and brightest talent you can, both internally and externally. And finally, you must integrate and practice visionary leadership. Well, there's a lot to talk about on this topic, but worry no more. Now you have someone to talk to. But let me say a few words about the show. Broadcasting live from Butterfield Studio in Chicagoland to the world, I'd like to welcome you to Ask Deb About Business. The talk show is broadcast every other Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time, where I join Deb Dietz to discuss a variety of business topics. So no matter what your venture is, you will certainly have questions. And let me say a few words about our host, Deb Dietz. Deb has a long and distinguished career as a coach, mentor, and through her awesome training programs at SMB Digital Education, she has enabled many entrepreneurs to follow their dreams. And that's exactly what I like about her, her ability to deliver practical advice to help you solve real problems. If you have a business question, well, let's ask Deb. Well, without further ado, let's welcome Deb Dietz to the show. How are you doing today, Deb?
Hey, Ron, great to see you. How are you?
Wonderful. And you're in the beautiful Butterfield Studios in Chicago.
We sure are, and we're delighted to be here at Butterfield Studios, located in Vernon Hills, Illinois. And I wanted to thank Jeff Horvath and the Butterfield Studio team for our beautiful set and for making us look and sound so great. So thank you, Jeff and the team. And welcome everyone to the show. Our show focuses on emerging trends, challenges, and opportunities that face small to mid-sized businesses, business owners, business leaders, and business professionals. And we invite subject matter experts on our show, experts on those topics. And my promise to you is that by the end of our time together today, you'll have at least one key takeaway that then you can take and make actionable within your own business. So our show is all about practical guidance, practical tips and strategies that you can make your own and implement this afternoon. And I'm delighted today that our special guest is Max Lambright. Max is an 8-time CEO, so he's someone who has sat behind that desk, and he's going to share his best practices and expertise in helping us all, because we all aspire to own world-class organizations.
How wonderful. So let me share just a few more words about Max before we welcome him to the show. So as Deb just mentioned, he's an 8-time CEO who has over 45 years of successful executive leadership experience. He now mentors other CEOs who are committed to building and growing world-class companies. The co-founder of the groundbreaking podcast, The Other Side of the Desk, Max writes for and speaks to and teaches visionary leaders who are committed to growing their companies, their people, and themselves. Max's book, The Aspiring CEO, The Proven Roadmap to the Corner Office, will be published this year. Well, without further ado, let's welcome Max to the show. How are you doing today, Max?
Well, good morning or good afternoon, wherever we are, folks. Yes.
Hi, Max. How are you today?
Hello, Deb. How are you?
I'm delighted and so happy that you're with Ram and I today and in sharing your expertise with our audience. You know, we've got a lot of folks in our audience who own well-established businesses. We also have those who are brand new entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, we all aspire to lead world-class organizations. And so your expertise is very welcome today. And before we kind of get into the topic of what it actually takes to build a world-class organization, I'd like to have you share a little bit about yourself and your background, because you have quite a really interesting background. You're an 8-time CEO. From last week when we spoke, it was 7-time CEO, and here you are again embarking on now your 8th journey. And we all want to understand how you got here. So if you would just kind of explain your background, maybe how you started, take us back to the beginning, and help us understand the journey that you've taken to get here.
Well, I'd like to understand how I got here as well, too. So maybe, the three of us can learn something by this. I've been doing business now. I've been in business for almost 50 years. My first real job right out of college was I went to work for NCR, back when NCR was a real corporation. And I was fortunate enough to go through NCR's Sugar Camp training program, which was world renowned. And that's actually what the IBM sales training was patterned after. So I did that selling mainframe computers on the east side of Cleveland, believe it or not, and got recruited away by AT&T back when AT&T was the largest corporation in the world before their first breakup. So that proves how old I am. Okay, and I went through AT&T's university as well too, and that was back in the days when corporate training was so prevalent and companies really invested in their employees. And there was a responsibility on your part as well too, because if you didn't pass the university, you were out of a job. So fortunately, I passed through it and spent some years working for AT&T. So I got to see the side of business from the large corporations.
Wonderful.
A few years later, I was actually got invited to go to a golf outing for the local Chamber of Commerce. And the guy sitting next to me turned out to be the CEO of a small manufacturer in Columbus, Ohio. And 2 weeks after we ended playing golf together, I was his sales director. And it was a custom heating element business, and we sold into the semiconductor industry. So over the next couple of years, I was able to grow that, build distribution networks all over Europe and Asia as well as North America. And that gentleman ended up getting sick, very badly sick, ill, and couldn't continue to perform. And the owners promoted me to president and CEO of the company. That was the first time. And was I prepared? Absolutely not. But I was the best candidate, I guess, at the time, and I learned on the job, and that began the process of being a now 8-time CEO. First time we talked, it was 7 times, Deb. That was about a month ago, and I'm like Michael Corleone. Just when I think I'm out, they bring me back, drag me back in. So, but I've been fortunate enough to team with 4 other ex-C-suite individuals in a partnership, and we're very excited about our new initiative. So, I've run that custom heating element business, food processing. One of the companies that we had and ended up selling was, believe it or not, we did all we private labeled, packaged, and distributed all the honey for Sam's Club and Walmart.
Okay.
And we did that out of a pole barn building in Northwest Ohio, that if you drove by, you would have no idea what was in the business whatsoever, but over 100 employees in there doing all the honey for all the Sam's Club and Walmarts in the world. So, it's been a varied experience, and it's been a lot of fun, ups and downs, successes, some challenges, and learned a lot of lessons.
Wow.
You know what? I do have a question for you, and people usually ask, so what do you do all day long? What is it the CEO does? What do you do, really?
I had trouble explaining that to my board a couple different times, board of directors, the people who hired me. Um, I'm going to use an answer here that I don't allow my people to use, and that is it all depends. And it all depends on the size and the age of the business, where you are in that journey of the size and the complexity of the firm. Because for an entrepreneur, a CEO will spend majority of the time on tactical issues. They'll be out selling, they'll be out on the floor, production floor, they'll be in product and planning sessions all day long. But as you grow, you make the transition to more of the visionary leader, where your responsibility is to be the vision setter of the organization. And the most important thing that you can do at any structured CEO is surround yourself with excellence.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to put the best possible team, and you're always competing with much larger organizations. So, I say the number one role of the CEO is to identify, attract, and retain the absolute best and brightest around them. Because the first thing you learn as a CEO, first time you get the job, is nobody hires a CEO to run the business. They hire a CEO to grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
Your team runs the business on a daily basis. That's not your job. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I appreciate that. So, people like, I think a lot of people understand that it's the role of the COO as an example to actually run the day-to-day of the operation, but the CEO really owns the vision for the organization. Mm-hmm. So another question I think that's important to ask is that something that is that a learned trait to be able to, is it a skill, a hard skill, a soft skill? Is it something that can be learned, or is it just inherent in someone who steps into a role like that?
I believe that anyone can develop that. I don't know I think it's a combination of skill and gift, but we'll call it a skill for our conversation today, if that's okay. Anybody can develop that. Are there schools or classes where you can go learn how to be a visionary or develop a vision? No, that's a true on the job, responsibility, because you'll see that on my background there, it's the other side of the desk.
Right.
And that's what truly the CEO sees the organization from the other side of the desk. All right. He or she is looking out at the entire organization, and nobody within the organization has the same view. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you're looking at what do you want the company to be? How do you want to grow it? How are you going to put the team together? And how are you going to lead it? So it's a combination of all those different, what I call pillars of being a great CEO, that you can learn on the job. You have to.
But you have to, right? So the role then is to drive the growth of the organization and leave it to your leadership team to actually manage the day-to-day. Is that fair?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Right. So as a CEO, you've been in the role many, many times. Mm-hmm. Is there like a common challenge that is, kind of crossed all the different roles that you've had that you see, or what would you say would be the biggest challenge that a CEO has?
Well, it's one of the two of putting that team together, all right, especially in small and medium businesses, because you're always competing with bigger companies who can offer more money for salary and for bonuses, that can offer better packages for your benefits and things like that. And most people assume that they can offer better opportunities for personal and professional growth. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that last part of it, because small and medium businesses where you can really have an impact as an individual and as a professional. All right. But you're always going to be challenged by competing with those companies that can offer more money for you.
Sure.
The other thing is the actual organic growth. All right. Nobody hires a CEO for a small and medium business to do acquisitions. All right. First of all, there's no such thing as a merger. There are only acquisitions.
Acquisitions, right.
Somebody wins. Right. Somebody's culture always wins. So there's only acquisitions. But you don't get hired to be a small and medium business CEO to go out and buy other companies. You get hired to grow what you're producing, what you're distributing, what you're representing. So it's putting that vision and then implementing the plan to succeed for organic growth, which is sustained, profitable, and scalable. And that's where most small medium businesses really are challenged, is scaling the growth they have.
So to me, that would say, when you think about organic growth coming from, for example, working with your existing products and services, your current value proposition, and looking for new markets or new customers, right? So that you can, that to me is, I would consider that a short-term, revenue generating, incremental revenue generating business strategy. So that's a great way to very quickly, maybe it's not so quickly, but to focus on growing organic growth that way, while maybe you have a parallel path that you're taking that is an innovative path. Because again, as business owners, as leadership, I would think that the CEO also kind of carries the flag for innovation, right? So what's next in the pipeline as far as new value creation for your customers? And that if you've got these paths moving in parallel, that to me sounds like a great way to drive incremental revenue in the short term while you're preparing yourself for growth in the future.
Absolutely, no question.
Okay.
And the one thing that I would recommend for anybody who's out there running an organization right now is look for the hidden treasury that you already have.
Yeah.
Because I have never been involved at a company that didn't have a couple of products or services that they weren't leveraging and could quickly turn into profitable revenue for the company just by exploring where they could leverage that, where they could transition that, where they could partner with that. So you've probably got a diamond in the rough or two within your organization already that you're not getting the most value out of or the most impact from.
It's interesting because in the work that I do, we do a lot of what we call portfolio mapping and really looking at, for example, sales growth over time, profitability over time, to identify maybe those products or services that you should think about sunsetting, as an example. Maybe if you're seeing a decline in sales, decline in profitability, at least you have that type of information or business intelligence that can help you understand about, what are we spending, what are we investing in those products and services, then maybe take those savings and redeploy them towards others that are potentially more profitable.
Absolutely. There's no question
So
about that.
you guys are kind of talking more about the challenges, but I would like to ask you, Max, so what is the most rewarding aspect of being a CEO?
Oh, watching the people grow around you. That's absolutely the number one thing. I mean, growing the organization is a challenge. I mean, meeting your sales objectives, meeting your profitability objectives, things like that. But the most rewarding by far is seeing the people that grow underneath you and take on new leadership roles, move on. I mean, you hate to lose them they've got tremendous institutional knowledge. You've worked with them for years, and you've seen what they can bring to the company, but you also don't want to ever stop somebody from taking on a new responsibility or moving up and becoming a CEO. I've had a couple people work for me that have gone on to other CEO roles, and that's tremendously rewarding. It means I didn't screw them up too badly. They were able to get around that. So, but that by far. The other thing is setting up relationships, partnerships. I really believe, I love being what I call invisible to the process, folks. I love being private labeled, my products and services, because I just want you to get my name right on the check that you're sending me. So if my products or services, our products can have multiple levels of impact, if they can help you provide products and services to your customers or your clients, then we've done a great job as well. So I love being invisible to the process and building those alliances, relationships, collaborating, because the thing I talked about earlier is you surround yourself with excellence. You do that internally and externally as well too, with your business partners, with your professional services providers, with your investors, with your board of directors. You need to have excellence all around you, and you grow and everybody grows. It's the old cliche, 1-on-1 is not 2, 1-on-1 is 11. All right. So I hope that answers the question, Ram.
Yeah, so it's always important to know both sides of the coin. And I think it's beautiful that, your example that you shared about the honey business, because sometimes you think, oh, the CEO is for a high-tech company. No, no. Yes, you have a high-tech side, but the same kinds of skills you need to run the chicken farm or the honeybees is the kind of same skills and vision and
Mm-hmm.
building vision and becoming that visionary leader. I mean, so you were the visionary leader for someone who dealt with honey, right? You say, well, honey, what are you talking about? Well, you have to have vision and you have to build this image of a successful business and what you're going to go do. And thank you so much for sharing that, because sometimes people just think about CEOs for manufacturing, but there's a need for CEOs in agriculture, in
Mhm.
all sorts of businesses.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've been doing this a long time, Max. So what is your most favorite thing about being a CEO? Other than, so you talked a lot about surrounding yourself with good people, both, working with seeing your people flourish, your employees flourish, developing relationships with, strategic alliance partners as an example. What else is it that kind of lights you up about the work you do?
Entering new markets or bringing new products or services to the marketplace and working with teams to adapt and change and improve on the fly, and then actually see them being accepted into and incorporated into the marketplace. I mean, there's very little initiatives you get more joy out of that. It's almost like watching your kids grow up and learn a skill or something. I mean,
Right.
it comes from you start with a whiteboard and you're arguing in the team, and people are, no, we can't do that, that's stupid. And then a stupid idea turns out to be the most brilliant thing you've ever come up with, and
Mm-hmm.
the market just loves it. So that's it doesn't get much better than that. It
Seems
really
to me,
does.
so that to me, it sounds to me then, culture is also very important, right? So that you have to
Oh,
create, as a leader, as a CEO, have to create an environment of acceptance and almost of safety, where people feel that they can bring forward their ideas for innovation and know that they're going to be respected and heard.
absolutely.
Right, so I think because that's how you get the best out of your people, is that you create that environment for them, so they're comfortable doing that and putting themselves out there.
Absolutely. One of the things that I learned very early on was that, you know, uh, everybody expects the CEO to have all the answers. None
Mm.
of us do. None of us ever will. And I'm only, it's another cliche, but I really try to do this. I try to be the dumbest person in the room. All right. I try to really surround myself with people that are smarter about me, even if it's only about a certain segment
Mm-hmm.
of what the conversation is. All right. So, I've led uh, a steel fabrication company that was just a bunch of engineers and welders. I mean, they wouldn't let me near a welding rig for anything in the world. I'd have burned the building down within 2 minutes. I mean, if I got close to where the welders were, they started getting real antsy and nervous because Max was coming by. They didn't want any part of that. And engineers, I'm not an engineer. I don't speak engineer, and engineers have their own language.
Right.
And, that's not a judgment. That's just the reality of the
Right.
situation. So, my goal is always to have the best people that I can surround me that have specific knowledge operationally, tactically, strategically, whatever the right focus that we need at that right time, and then provide an opportunity to say, look, we're not walking out of this room till we come up with a solution.
Right.
All right, and you're going to present it to the customer or to the board or the bank, whoever it's going to be. So you guys, you have to buy into whatever recommendation we're coming up with. And I always, when I would go out on sales calls, I wouldn't go by myself. I would bring an engineer with me. I would bring my CFO with me. I would bring my attorney with me.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. I wanted them to be involved in that process so they could see how the customer operates, how they think, hear how they speak, understand how they look at us as a supplier, and then they get a better idea of what their role is in the entire process. Because, I mean, I'm using too many cliches here, folks, but everybody does sell. We all do sell. All right. And if you get them involved in that process, they really get a kick out of it. They learn a tremendous amount.
They do.
And then they feel engaged. And that's, I think, the biggest problem right now in business in America, if not worldwide, is so many employees don't feel engaged. They don't feel like they're a part of building something bigger than themselves. All right. And when you get them involved in selling, when you get them involved in representing your business, when they start to wear that shirt that says whatever the name of it is, but they're out there in front of a customer or a prospective customer, they get a whole different view, a whole different understanding of what the process really is. Right. And then they're engaged. Okay?
I love that. I love that. So they get a different perspective than maybe they had, because they're in front of the customer, listening to kind of the customer's point of view, maybe changing some opinions, and maybe looking for ways to improve processes or operations.
Right. And then you'd also listen to them when they came back at the lunchroom, and when we got to sale, it was all because of their presentation. I mean, none of the rest of us did it, but it was everything they did that won the deal for us.
So that to me is a best practice, right? So as leaders, CEO, to bring in your team where it makes sense, so that they have an opportunity, certainly to add value to the conversation, but also the takeaways that they'll have by being in front of that customer will be also very, that's another form of business intelligence, right? To help them do their jobs more effectively. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. So you've done this for a long time. So 8-time CEO. So let me ask you this question: we have a lot of people in our audience that are first-time business owners, or maybe even those that are new entrepreneurs just starting out. If you could go back to the early days, if you will, what have you learned now that you would like to tell yourself when you were starting out? So, is there something that is an aha moment for you that could help inform, those in our audience who are just embarking on business ownership?
Yeah. The things that I wish I would have done in the first time that I became CEO is that I would have spent more time truly understanding the financials of the business, really understanding where we made money, because you don't make money off every product or every service. Right. So I would strongly encourage new entrepreneurs or new executives in that role to truly understand where you make money, how you make money, and really dig into those financials. The other thing I would strongly recommend is you spend as much time in front of the customer or prospect as you possibly can. One of the things I make my clients now, those CEOs that I'm mentoring, is that I make them go out to their 10 largest customers, and I make them go by themselves for this call. And they ask 2 questions. They ask, why do you continue to buy from us? And what can we do better? And just shut up and just let the customer will tell you. Yeah. They'll tell you, they'll answer that question. This is why we buy from you. And it's rarely, if ever, about price. It's just not. That's not why long-term customers work with you. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have 10 customers right now, it's a more of example of the customers you do have. All right. What are the attributes? Why do you believe they bought from you in the first place? And that's what you focus on from going forward, of how do you communicate that in a manner that's consistent, concise, compelling, and credible. All right. And that's the 2 things that I would have done differently, or I wish I knew then that I know now, is really digging into those financials, understand where we make money, and then spend more time in front of the customer.
Wonderful. So I would imagine that along the way on your journey, your CEO journey, that you've made some mistakes. I don't want to put you on the spot, but because we can all learn from those who came before who have made mistakes. And
Yeah.
is there something that sticks out in your mind, if you don't mind sharing that?
Oh, absolutely.
Help us understand, because that'll help the rest of us understand maybe pitfalls to avoid or things to look out for that maybe we're not thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something that happened to you along the way that kind of still bothers you today?
Oh, yeah. And it's hiring the wrong people.
Hiring the
When I
wrong people.
when
Yeah.
I was told when I was told by people that I should have listened to that that the person we brought on was not the right person, and they were absolutely correct. So it's a combination of making the wrong hire, but more importantly, I think the real lesson here is listening to those people around you that you say you trust and that you value their opinion and you value their input. And the second thing is just listening to your gut or your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it wasn't like I didn't have intuition that these individuals were wrong, but I let my head and my ego overrule my heart and the input from people around me
Okay.
that I said I trusted. And a couple times it was with drastic consequences, folks. It wasn't pretty. In fact,
Okay.
one of them I lost the job over. So um, listening to your gut is so important, but so it's not woo woo at all. It's really your heart will tell you, your gut will tell you this is probably not a good idea. And there's no decision that you have to make today. I mean, one of the lines I use with my teams are, there are no babies on operating tables here. We're okay. All right. The business is going to be fine tomorrow. We can hold off on this decision tomorrow. We can hold off and think through it again some other, and
Mm-hmm.
delay it a little bit. And I wish I would have done that earlier, because I made two really, really bad hires, and it cost the company and it cost me professionally, personally, financially. Um, and it still bothers me.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you
I
so
do
much
have a
for.
comment or question here from Batsir. Hi, Batsir. Great to have you here on the show. So, one awesome event, great host, great leader. Thank you. Thank you. So, Max, really, that's one of the reasons why we wanted Max here, is because he has a lot of things to share. So, though, the conversation didn't leave much room for questions, how would you
But,
describe upcoming terrain the leaders should be aware of? What
but,
is that you would focus on?
I've done a lot of conversation and a lot of study, and about the next, say, 18 to 24 months. And while small and medium business leaders are worried about the economy and worried about inflation, still the number one prevailing issue is talent, attrition, turnover, engagement. There's more money lost there than lost by a couple of points of inflation, and more dramatic impact or disruption to the business. And what we focus on with our clients is putting together what we call a 1 and 3 year plan. We do a 1 and 3 year personal growth plan for every employee in one of my clients' companies, and those plans identify where we, the management or leadership, and the employee at whatever level they are, collaboratively envision their financial compensation for the next 12 months, including bonuses, or however in salespeople, it's with their commissions, how it's structured. And then we also do that for 3 years. We do a professional growth plan. If they want to go into management, We structure, okay, here's the skills you need to focus on to get ready to make that transition. Here's the potential opportunities coming up, because we truly believe in promoting from within and not just
Mm-hmm.
paying lip service to that, but actually doing it. Okay. So we engage them financially, from professionally, and then we talk about personally. I mean, what kind of work-life balance do you have? Because if it's someone who's 30 years old and they've got a 5 and a 6 year old that, they're going to be playing t-ball, they're going to be playing, flag football, and that's important to that employee, then we don't want to just ignore that. We want to recognize that, all right, and identify that, how that's going to fit into their plan. So to really go ahead, to
No,
engage. Go ahead.
yeah, I was
I'm
just going to
sorry.
say what I'm hearing. This is so interesting because I think a lot of folks are thinking about, performance management is important, certainly making
Mm-hmm.
sure your folks are, meeting their objectives. But what you're advocating for is really a kind of a 360-degree view of that employee, right?
Yeah,
So that,
yeah.
personally and professionally, and making sure that you're having the conversations regularly so that you can make sure that they are, satisfied, that maybe they're not going to become, a retention issue, that you can't, and that you're working on their providing professional development opportunities for them, and providing them maybe the skills and training that comes with that, so that they are able to ultimately maybe, move up, in levels of responsibility.
Absolutely. I mean, if the American Human Resources, AHRA, their survey right now says 63% of employees in the United States right now are actively considering leaving their current role in the next 12 months. 63%.
So there's a lot
90.
of unhappiness there, right? And so
There's
despite
tremendous.
all you're trying to say, right, there's still a lot of unhappiness. So what is your advice for those companies that are there struggling? I know perhaps they already do all those things, or perhaps they don't do it enough, or is it the issue that the new generation has different wants and desires? So what is your guidance in there? What can people effectively do? One or two things you would say, you know what, you should try that or the other to help people become a little bit more happier in the workplace.
I think everybody, no matter what age they are, wants to be involved with building something bigger than themselves. If they just coming in and putting a 40-hour week in, and they're worried about another 5 or 7% pay increase the next year, that's not engagement. That's just an hourly worker. And to me, that's more the responsibility and the challenge for leadership and management than it is the employee. So I go back to this, what I call the engagement, is that how do you put a plan together for 1 year and 3 year? This is how you are going to impact the organization. This is how you're going to help us grow. And this is how you're going to be personally responsible for being a small part of that. Because we're all a smart part of it, no matter what the
Right.
title is.
Right.
Okay. So getting that every employee engaged in something bigger than themselves. Now, the other thing that we do is we do 3-by-3 mentoring. All right. Every employee is mentored by 3 other people, and that employee mentors 3 other people. And those people are not in your same work group or your same, professional strength. So you get involved if you're I don't know, let's say you're a accounting clerk. Well, you're going to be involved with somebody in engineering, somebody in production, and somebody in sales. So you're going to get to see how the rest of the organization operates, and they're going to get to see how accounting operates. And all these engineers, you can't talk to them. No, you're going to have to develop a personal and professional relationship with them.
Right.
So everybody does that. All right. And so you get a whole different view of the corporation. You get a whole different view of how the interactions and the interdependencies, so that you are engaged in something other than coming in and, clicking on your adding machine. Do they still use adding machines? I don't know if they do still anymore. But, if you're clicking on your adding machine or your laptop or whatever, but you're out there actually sitting in engineering meetings and you're sitting in sales presentations.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's a whole different level of engagement. And that to me is the key. I don't
You
think
know,
it's a cliche.
I think that's on point, and it's interesting because I do strategic planning for a living. So it's interesting when we're looking at how to drive employee satisfaction, increase our retention rates with our clients. One of the things that we find that's very meaningful is to sit down with each employee and share that plan, the business plan with them, and show them exactly how the role that they play, leveraging their skills and talents, have an impact on those overall objectives of the company. And
Absolutely.
so because people walk into work every day, everybody comes to work, they want to do a good job, they want to make a contribution. But if you can show them, physically on the planning documents exactly how their work supports these strategies support these overall objectives and key metrics of the organization, then all of a sudden it makes it they're very aware of just how impactful they are and how necessary they are. And so I find that that's really a great way of getting people to be committed to the organization because they see how they're valued.
Absolutely. No question. If you see your personal impact and you can measure that,
Right.
all right, then it becomes a whole different experience for you. It's not just an hourly job or whatever.
Right.
And then, but you have a plan in front of you that says, okay, I'm going to probably be a manager in a year from now or 3 years from now. Here's what I have to do. It gives everybody the impetus to take on additional responsibility, to learn new skills, to stretch, to grow, because they see what it means not only to them, but also what it means to the corporation. That's how you build something bigger than yourself.
Okay. See, I love that because you're driving performance management by aligning them to the goals and objectives, but you're also looking at the professional development of that person. So by exposing them to maybe some of the enterprise-wide aspects of the business that maybe they don't have been witness to, it opens up opportunities for them to say, you know what, I may be a marketing manager, but I'm really interested in technology and maybe IT, and maybe that's a career path for me.
Right.
I love that.
Remember we talked earlier about how small businesses competing with much larger organizations because they pay more and they got better benefits, and there's supposedly they can have a better track and more impact. Right. Here's an example how that's not true. Small and medium businesses, you can actually show employees how their personal efforts impact the organization. You can't do that on a Fortune 100 or Fortune 1000 corporation. It's a whole different conversation, and it's a whole different way of attracting and then retaining those best and brightest. And I know that sound like a cliche, but that's who you're really looking for, the best and the brightest that you can attract and retain. And they can see how they have an impact. And that's one of those things that's like a savings plan for retirement. You can't start when you're 50 to do that. When you're a small company, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to start doing that with your employees when there's only 2 or 3 of you. All right? Because people are not going to assume that on their own. You as the CEO or the leader, you have to say, this is how you're impacting the business. Let me show you. Let me explain to you what it means to the whole company and what you're doing. Even though there's only 3 of us here, I need you to do this. We need you to do this. So starting that conversation, starting that educational process early on is so vitally important.
I have a question for you about career path. So some people, and you have now 8 different CEO positions, right? So some people believe, they should look for roles, and when they're transitioning from role to role, that roles that are similar. Other people believe, and you mentioned, change roles and roles that are very different. Is one path better than the other in your experience? To people who want to grow, should they look for experiences, so become more specialized in what you do, or become more like an encyclopedia and change roles? What's best?
I'm going to get kind of soft and woo-woo here on you because I believe your heart tells you that, Ram. I really do. All right, you have to listen. I believe we're all here for a purpose at this time. All right, and that's not to suck up other people's oxygen. All right. And I believe that we each have our own individual paths. I mean, so if somebody, you met somebody else said, well, they're an 8-time CEO, you'd think, man, this guy's a failure. I mean, how many times do you have to screw up to be a CEO 8 different times, right? You can look at things so many different ways. So I'm rambling on here. I'm going to answer the question here. There is no clear set rule for that. There are people that do not want to be managers. You know, there's another survey. I'm trying to drop numbers on you here. Another survey. This one stunned me. American Management Association did a survey of thousands of first-time line managers in large corporations. 44% of them were promoted as a surprise. They didn't even know they were going to be promoted. All right? Wharton contracted with McKinsey to do a survey of over 4,000 global executives. All right? 68% of them came back with the finding that they were not prepared for their current job. All right? That's scary, folks, that many people, A, are surprised they got promoted, and B, they weren't prepared for the position. So the answer, Ram, is that the person has to really decide what they want to be when they grow up. Do they want to go into management? And if they don't, we need technical specialists. Yes. We need subject matter experts. All right. We don't need any more managers that are bad or don't want to be in that role, because we certainly got enough of those at all levels of business right now. And people don't leave jobs because they hate the job or they hate the company. They leave jobs because they don't like their manager or their manager's not good. All right. That's been proven so many times. We don't even need to have that discussion. All right. So you have to be the CEO of your life, of your own life. You have to have the vision for yourself. This is what I want to do. This is what resonates with me. This is what makes my heart sing. I enjoy leading companies and watching teams grow and taking new products to market and places like that. That's why I do what I do. There are people that would hate this job. And there are times when I woke up in the morning that I didn't particularly like it either, to be honest, okay? But, you know, it's not, everybody doesn't want to be a CEO. All right? I hope I answered the question there. I know it's kind of rambling, but it's, you know, you have to decide what's best for you, because there is no clear path for everybody.
So true.
It's the most asked question, you know. People wonder if they should become specialists and do more what you do. I mean, if you're like an accountant, become the expert on, you know, the IRS regulation XYZ, or branch out, and that's a big decision, especially for people who are starting out. And, you know, should you become the best engineer on this, or should you become the best all-around person? And that's the kind of guidance question that appears time and time again. But thanks for sharing your thoughts, and give some guidance.
You know, you just illustrated the best example for a coach, because it's very hard to make that objective decision for yourself when you're able to work with someone who can take that that outside view, and not personal view. I mean, they want the best for you, but it's not them that's involved in the situation. To have them ask you the questions and then get your thinking in line, what's best for you. So you just did a great example of why everybody at all levels needs a coach. Now, do you need one for 2 years? Probably not. You just need one for a short engagement to help you with this decision and get you on the right path, and then you take off from there. So what we're working on right now is providing that capability, that access to that type of assistance or guidance at a price point that everybody can access and utilize, and not be $5,000 a month or something like that. So that's what we're working on right now. We're having a lot of fun with it. I'm
You
sorry.
illustrate a very good point. I think so. People need to be aware. So there's training and there's mentoring and there's coaching. And
Yeah.
coaching
Right.
provides really a wonderful value
Hmm.
because it's someone who has been around the block. So, oh, you know what? The bus is coming. You should step aside. It's not a very good idea to be in the. So some things, you don't have to experience on your own in order to realize what's the best path and someone who has been through. And one thing that I think Deb does very well with her work in terms of strategic planning is she holds people's hands. You know what?
Hmm.
I will walk you through the 3 steps for this, it's 5 steps for that. So we all need those things. We need those people who are dedicated. And I think that's very beautiful about your job is your willingness and your I think it illustrates your caring for others, but it's your willingness to share and help other
Yes.
people grow and maybe people who don't even work for you, they're complete strangers, but you are making an impact on their lives and you're helping them grow. And people should realize coaching is available. Look for the best coach in the business and the person who you identify with. That person is going to help you grow.
Well, and you bring up one more point there that's really important here on this coaching thing is that I couldn't do what Deb does in her coaching. Her
Mhm.
strategic planning, things like that. She focuses on that. That's what she does. I work with CEOs in their first
Mhm.
18 months. I provide a very niche service there in that because they're challenged by one of three or four different things in that first 18 months. And I can help them get on the right path to success because depending on again which study you believe, 30 to 70% of all CEOs aren't going to make it through 18 months.
Right.
All right, which is a stunning figure as
Very.
well, isn't it?
Very.
So, but there are specialty coaches out there that can help you for your specific situation.
And so we
And
have a comment and a question really, but let's talk a little bit about trust building here. Is trust really the best commodity we have or the only commodity we have?
the only commodity we have, I don't know about that. The best, I would say, yeah. If it's not number one, it's number one A. I believe you build trust with a lot of little yeses. By that I mean you make a commitment, small commitment, you follow through with the commitment. You get a yes. And they say, oh yeah, this person's actually do it. They walk the talk. They walk the walk, not just talk the talk. They actually follow up what they do. So I believe that, and you do that with new prospects. You do that with new customers. You say you're going to deliver it Tuesday, it gets delivered Tuesday, maybe even Monday. All right, before. All right. Something happens, goes wrong, and things go wrong with products and services all the time. All right,
Sure.
you fix it. All right, you
Right.
say we'll fix it. We fix it. And so the 3 by 3 process, I looked at the question there on the screen. Is yeah, that builds up a lot of trust because you put the plan together. Well, you do the mentoring for people, and they see how your different department or your different job function has to meet commitments that you make because everybody has to make commitments in their job. So how do you follow up with that? How do you fulfill that? How do you make make your audience, whoever that is, happy and satisfied? So absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Max, this has been such an amazing conversation, and thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom. And one thing I do want to ask you as we wrap up here is if you could, provide one key takeaway that you would like our audience to leave with today, maybe something that they could work on this afternoon even, what would that be?
I would tell people that no matter where they are in their journey, is to take the time to really think about what kind of legacy they want to leave. We didn't talk about that at all, but it's an incredible part of being a visionary leader is leaving a legacy. Tell you just a quick story. My kids hate going to the movies with me because I always stay till the end of the movie and I watch the credits. And when you think about it, sometimes they have those little Easter eggs in them, which are always funny. But you think about all the people that are involved in the making of a motion picture. Well, in life, we don't get to see our credits. But if you think about those credits that are rolling by and all those names, those are all the people that you've come into contact with, you've engaged with, you've had an impact on in your life. The people that have the supporting actor roles are your family or your loved ones or your employees, your partners, whatever. And then the people that are on the supporting roles, those are just the people that you engaged with or interacted with all your life. But you do have an impact on all of those, and that's what your legacy is. We don't get to see that, but we're going to leave, each of us is going to leave a lasting legacy. It's never too early to think about that. It's never too early to think about what kind of legacy and what kind of impact you're actually living. So that's what I would tell anybody, no matter where they are in their journey.
Wow, well, thank you so much. That is a beautiful way to wrap things up. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to be seeing more of you in the conference, actually. Max is speaking at the VC Latinx conference, and it is about the CEO's roadmap to creating a world-class organization. Can you give us a little hint of what you're going to be talking? Is it more of what we discussed today?
It's a little bit more. We're going to be talking about the three characteristics that really make up a world-class organization and how any business can start down that path to realizing that. So we'll define what a world-class organization is and some of the characteristics and steps they can begin taking right now for free. They don't have to go spend a lot of money on consultants or coaches. They can start doing it right now for free.
Wonderful. So, folks, we do have a couple of shows coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about Generation Z entering the workforce. We're going to, continue this discussion in terms of employee happiness and what we can do about that. So we're going to have a very special SDAB with guest Dr. Chadi Naba on living a life of purpose. Building a winning mentality as a CEO is going to be one of the conversations. And then we're going to have one final VC Latinx online conference, the Metaverse Experience. So mark your calendars, folks. VC Latinx, May 23rd to the 26th. Visit us at vclatinx.bfairs.com. And again, so thank you so much for being here with us today. We want to say a very special thank you to all the people who were joined online. So we had people on several different social media platforms join today. Thank you for your comments and questions. And again, thank you so much for being here with us. And we hope to see you again next time in another edition of SDAB About Business. See you next time.